There is a thought forming in your mind right now. You can feel it. Not the words yet, not the shape of it, but the pressure of it arriving, like weather moving in from the edge of the horizon. And here is what will sound strange until we spend the next hour together. That thought did not start with you. It did not originate inside the boundaries of your skull. And by the time we are finished, you will understand. Not as a belief, but as something you can feel in your own direct experience, that your mind has never been the private, sealed chamber you were taught it was. That every thought you have ever had exists in relationship with a field that extends far beyond your skin. And that this field, this living connective tissue of consciousness, already knows what you are thinking, because your thinking is not separate from it. It never was. Let that land for a moment. Not as philosophy, not as poetry. As a possibility you are willing to hold while we walk through the evidence together. Most of us carry a picture of the mind that goes something like this. You are a brain inside a skull. Your thoughts are electrochemical signals firing between neurons. Those signals are private, contained, yours alone. Consciousness is produced by the brain the way steam is produced by a kettle, and the boundary of your mind is the boundary of your body. Everything outside that boundary is the external world, separate from you, indifferent to what you think or feel. This picture is so familiar, it feels like fact. It feels like the way things obviously are, but it is not fact. It is a model. And models, by definition, are simplifications that leave things out. The question is what this particular model leaves out, and whether what it leaves out is actually the most important part. Because there is a growing body of evidence, from quantum physics, from neuroscience, from field theory, from direct human experience across thousands of years and dozens of cultures, that the mind is not local, that thoughts are not confined to the brain that appears to think them, that consciousness operates as a field phenomenon, and that this field connects every mind to every other mind in ways that our current dominant model has no room for. And once you begin to see this, once the evidence accumulates past a certain threshold, you do not go back to the old picture. Not because someone convinced you, because the old picture stops making sense of your own experience. So let us begin where the cracks in the old picture first appeared. Let us begin with the experiment that shattered the assumption that observation is passive. In 1927, physicists performed what has become known as the double-slit experiment. The setup is deceptively simple. You fire particles, photons, or electrons one at a time through a barrier that has two narrow slits in it. On the other side of the barrier is a detection screen that records where each particle lands. If particles are just tiny solid objects, you would expect them to pass through one slit or the other and form two bands on the screen, like paint thrown through two windows. But that is not what happens. The particles form an interference pattern, a series of alternating bright and dark bands that is the unmistakable signature of waves interacting with each other. Each particle, fired one at a time, somehow interferes with itself as though it passed through both slits simultaneously. It behaves as a wave of probability, not as a solid thing. That alone was strange enough. But the truly disturbing part came next. When physicists placed a detector at the slits to observe which slit each particle actually went through, the interference pattern vanished. The particles started behaving like particles again, forming two simple bands. The act of observation, of looking, of measuring, changed the physical outcome. Remove the detector and the wave pattern returns. Add it back and the particles snap into definite positions. The universe, at its most fundamental level, appears to respond to whether or not it is being watched. Now, mainstream physics has spent a century trying to contain the implications of this. The standard interpretation, the Copenhagen interpretation, says that the wave function, which is the mathematical description of all the possible states a particle could be in, collapses into a single definite state upon measurement. And measurement, in this framework, means interaction with a measuring device. It does not require a conscious observer. That is the official position. But here is what the official position quietly avoids. It never defines what counts as a measurement. It never explains why a measuring device is different from any other physical interaction. And it never addresses the fact that the entire concept of measurement implies something doing the measuring. An observer, a point of awareness, a consciousness that registers a result. John von Neumann, one of the greatest mathematicians of the 20th century, followed this logic to its conclusion in his 1932 treatise on the mathematical foundations of quantum mechanics. He demonstrated that you can push the boundary of the measurement event further and further back, from the particle to the detector, to the wire, to the computer, to the screen, to the retina, to the optic nerve. And at no point in the physical chain do you find a natural place where the wave function collapses. The only place the chain terminates is in consciousness itself, in the subjective experience of a result being registered by an aware mind. Eugene Wigner, a Nobel laureate in physics, took this further. He argued explicitly that consciousness is the element that causes the collapse, that without a conscious observer, the quantum system remains in superposition, in all possible states at once. This is not mysticism dressed in lab coats. These were rigorous physicists following the mathematics where it led, and arriving at a conclusion that made them deeply uncomfortable. Because if consciousness is what collapses the wave function, then consciousness is not a byproduct of physical processes. It is a participant in them. It is woven into the fabric of reality at the most fundamental level. And this is where the first thread of our subject appears. If consciousness is not produced by the brain like steam from a kettle, if it is instead a fundamental feature of reality that interacts with matter at the quantum level, then the assumption that your mind is sealed inside your skull begins to dissolve. Because a fundamental feature of reality is not local, gravity is not local, electromagnetism is not local. They are fields that extend through space, connecting distant objects in continuous relationship. If consciousness is a field, then your thoughts are not private events happening inside a container. They are fluctuations in a field that extends beyond you. And that field, by its nature, is shared. The gap between where you are and where you know you could be is not a motivation problem. It is not a discipline problem. It is something much more specific than that. There is something underneath all of it, quietly running the show. I am hosting a free live transmission where I walk you through exactly what that is and how to finally shift it at the root. The link to register is in the description below. Save your seat. The moment you see this, you will understand why you could not see it before. Let us pick up the second thread now. Because the double-slit experiment is not the only place where quantum physics suggests that separation is an illusion, there is another phenomenon, one that Einstein himself called spooky action at a distance, that makes the case even more directly. It is called quantum entanglement. Here is what happens. When two particles interact under certain conditions, they become entangled. Their quantum states become correlated in a way that cannot be explained by any local mechanism. Once entangled, you can separate these particles by any distance, across a room, across a continent, across the observable universe. And when you measure a property of one particle, the other particle instantaneously assumes the correlated state. Not after a delay, not after a signal has time to travel between them, instantaneously, as though the distance between them does not exist. This has been confirmed experimentally beyond any reasonable doubt. In 1982, Alain Aspect performed a landmark experiment in Paris that closed the major loopholes in earlier tests of Bell's theorem. Bell's theorem, formulated by physicist John Stuart Bell in 1964, proved mathematically that if the results of quantum measurements are determined by hidden local variables, meaning by information carried independently by each particle, then the statistical correlations between measurements on entangled particles must obey a certain mathematical limit, called a Bell inequality. Aspect's experiment, and every experiment since, has shown that the correlations violate this limit. They exceed what any local explanation can account for. The universe is not locally real in the way classical physics assumed. The particles are not carrying hidden instructions. They are genuinely connected across space in a way that transcends distance. Now feel what this means. Two particles that once interacted remain connected regardless of separation. The measurement of one instantly affects the other. There is no signal traveling between them. There is no wire, no wave, no force carrier. There is simply correlation, as though the two particles are not actually two things, but two expressions of one underlying reality. If this is beginning to shift something in the way you see yourself and the world, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so we can keep exploring this together. David Bohm, the physicist who spent decades developing an alternative to the Copenhagen interpretation, had a name for this underlying reality. He called it the implicate order. In Bohm's framework, what we see as separate objects in space and time are actually projections from a deeper, enfolded level of reality where everything is interconnected. He used the analogy of a hologram. In a hologram, every part of the film contains information about the whole image. Cut a hologram in half, and each half still contains the entire picture, just at lower resolution. Bohm proposed that the universe works similarly. What appears to be a world of separate objects is actually an unfolded projection from a deeper order in which everything is already connected. Separation is the illusion. Connection is the ground. And here is where the threads converge. If consciousness is a fundamental feature of reality, as the measurement problem suggests, and if the deeper structure of reality is one of total interconnection, as entanglement and Bohm's implicate order suggest, then consciousness itself must be interconnected. Your mind is not an island. It is a wave in an ocean, and the ocean does not stop where the wave appears to end. This is not a metaphor, or rather, it is a metaphor that points to something the physics actually implies. When you have a thought, that thought is a fluctuation in a field of consciousness that is not bounded by your body. Other minds, other fluctuations in the same field, are not separate from yours. They are entangled with yours. Not in the loose, poetic sense, in the precise sense that the state of one is correlated with the state of another in ways that cannot be explained by any local, classical mechanism. And you already know this. You have experienced it. You have thought of someone you have not spoken to in months, and your phone rings, and it is them. You have walked into a room and felt something, a tension, a warmth, a wrongness, before anyone said a word. You have known something was happening to someone you love before any information reached you through normal channels. You have had a conversation where the other person said the exact sentence that was forming in your own mind. You have dreamed something that then happened. The standard response to these experiences is to dismiss them. Coincidence, confirmation bias, selective memory, and certainly some of them are. The human mind is a pattern-finding machine that sometimes finds patterns where none exist. But the sheer volume and consistency of these experiences across every culture, every era, every demographic, is itself a data point. When billions of people across thousands of years report the same category of experience, the scientific response is not to dismiss it, but to investigate what might be producing it. And investigation has been happening quietly at the margins of respectable science for decades. The results are more robust than most people realize. At Princeton University, from 1979 to 2007, the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory, known as PR, conducted one of the longest-running experimental programs in the history of consciousness research. Their central experiment was simple. A random event generator, essentially an electronic coin flipper, produced a stream of random binary data, zeros and ones. Human operators sat near the device and attempted to mentally influence the output, to shift the proportion of ones versus zeros in a chosen direction. Over millions of trials with hundreds of operators, the results showed a small but statistically significant shift in the direction of the operator's intention. The effect size was tiny, roughly 1 part in 10,000. But it was consistent, it was replicable, and its statistical significance was enormous, with odds against chance in the trillions. The Peer Lab also discovered something even more provocative. The effect did not diminish with distance. An operator on the other side of the world produced the same magnitude of influence as one sitting next to the device. And in some experiments, the effect appeared even when the operator focused their intention hours or days before the random data was generated. Let that register. A human mind focusing intention measurably influenced the output of a random physical device. The influence did not weaken with distance, and it appeared to operate outside of normal temporal sequence. Whatever mechanism was at work, it was not local, and it was not confined to the present moment. The Global Consciousness Project, which grew out of the Peer Lab's work, extended this investigation to the scale of world events. Beginning in 1998, a network of random event generators was placed at locations around the world, continuously producing random data. The hypothesis was that during events of mass attention or shared emotion, the global network would show deviations from randomness, as though the collective focus of millions of minds was creating a coherent signal in the field. The results, accumulated over more than 2 decades, show exactly that. During events like the September 11th attacks, major earthquakes, New Year's celebrations, and other moments of global emotional coherence, the network shows statistically significant deviations from expected randomness. The data does not tell us the mechanism, but it tells us that something is happening. That when many minds focus together, the physical world responds. I want to pause here and ask you something. Have you ever had one of those moments where you felt undeniably connected to someone or something beyond your physical senses, a knowing that arrived before any information could explain it? I would love to hear about it in the comments. Now, there is a practice I want to invite you into here because understanding this intellectually is only half of what is available. The other half is felt, and it lives in your direct experience right now. Close your eyes for a moment, if you can, or soften your gaze, and bring your attention to the space just in front of your forehead, not inside your head, in front of it, about 6 inches out. Just rest your awareness there. You are not trying to feel anything. You are not looking for a sensation. You are simply placing attention in a space that you normally ignore. The space immediately around your body. The space between you and the world. Now notice something. That space is not empty. It has a quality. It has a texture. It might feel warm or cool. It might feel dense or open. It might feel like it is vibrating at a frequency so subtle you have never consciously registered it before. What you are feeling is the edge of your field, not the edge of your body. The edge of your field. And if you stay with it, you will notice that it does not have a hard boundary. It fades, it extends, it bleeds into the space around it. And the space around it bleeds into the space around other people, other living things, other points of awareness. You are not feeling the wall of your private mind. You are feeling the gradient where your individual pattern of consciousness merges with the larger field. Stay with that for a few breaths, not thinking about it, feeling it. This is not imagination. This is a perceptual capacity that you have always had, but were never taught to use. Every contemplative tradition in human history has practices designed to develop exactly this sensitivity. In the Vedantic tradition, it is called the expansion of awareness beyond the koshas, the sheaths of the self. In Zen, it is the dissolution of the boundary between self and not self. In the Sufi tradition, it is the heart's capacity to perceive the unseen. In the Taoist tradition, it is sensitivity to qi, the vital energy that flows through all things. These traditions disagree on theology, on cosmology, on practice. But they converge on this one point. The mind is not contained in the body. Awareness extends beyond the skin. And with training, you can learn to feel it. Now let us go deeper into the science, because there is a specific mechanism that may explain how this works. And it comes from an unexpected place. It comes from the physics of coherence. In physics, coherence refers to the degree to which waves are synchronized. A laser produces coherent light, meaning all the photons are in phase, their peaks and troughs aligned. This coherence is what gives a laser its power. The photons are not individually stronger than the photons from a light bulb. But because they are synchronized, their effects compound rather than cancel out. Incoherent light scatters. Coherent light cuts through steel. The same principle applies to electromagnetic fields, to sound waves, to any oscillating system. And the human body is an oscillating system. Your heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in your body, measurable several feet away with sensitive instruments. Your brain generates oscillating electrical fields that we measure as brain waves. Every cell in your body has an electromagnetic component. You are, quite literally, a field of oscillating energy. The HeartMath Institute, a research organization in California, has spent decades studying the electromagnetic field of the human heart. Their research has documented something remarkable. When a person enters a state of what they call heart coherence, a state of emotional equilibrium characterized by feelings of appreciation, care, or compassion, the heart's electromagnetic field becomes measurably more ordered. The heart rate variability pattern shifts from a jagged, erratic signal to a smooth, sine wave-like oscillation. And this coherent heart signal entrains other biological oscillators in the body. Brain waves synchronize with the heart rhythm. Respiratory patterns align. Even the electrical activity of the skin shifts. But here is the part that connects to our subject. HeartMath's research has also shown that one person's coherent heart field can be detected in the brain waves of another person nearby. When two people are in close proximity and one enters a state of heart coherence, the other person's brain waves begin to synchronize with the first person's heart rhythm. This is not metaphor. This is measured. Electroencephalogram readings of one person showing entrainment to the electrocardiogram readings of another. The fields are interacting. The coherence of one system is communicating with and influencing another system without any physical contact, without any verbal communication, without any conscious intention to do so. This is field coupling. It is the same principle by which two pendulum clocks mounted on the same wall will eventually synchronize their swings, a phenomenon first observed by Christian Huygens in 1665. Oscillating systems that share a medium tend to fall into sync, and if consciousness is a field, if minds are oscillating patterns in a shared medium, then the same principle applies. Your thoughts, your emotional states, your patterns of awareness are not sealed inside you. They are broadcasting into a shared field, and other minds are receiving that broadcast, whether either party is conscious of it or not. This reframes everything you thought you knew about thinking. You assumed your thoughts were yours, generated by you, contained in you, private to you. But what if many of your thoughts are not generated by you at all? What if they are resonance patterns picked up from the field? What if the reason you suddenly feel anxious in a crowd is not because of anything happening to you, but because you are entangled with the collective emotional state of the people around you? What if the reason a creative idea seems to arrive from nowhere is that it literally arrived from somewhere? From the field, from another mind working on a similar problem, from a pattern of consciousness that was already coherent and simply needed a receiver tuned to its frequency. If you are feeling the truth of this signal, you have always been broadcasting. Here is something I want to share. Have you spent years chasing manifestation, visualizing, affirming, raising your vibration, only to watch the same patterns repeat? Every traditional method assumes the same thing, that you are separate from what you want. That separation was never real. You were chasing a signal you were already broadcasting. Beyond the frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery walks through all 9 frequencies, from the dense transmissions trapping you, through the ascending currents, to the master frequencies where consciousness becomes the field. Every method you tried sent a signal outward. This one tunes the signal you already are. Every day you delay, your nervous system broadcasts the same old signal, and breaking free gets harder. So move on it tonight. The link is in the pinned comment below. Now let us return to how this deeper understanding reshapes your life. I am curious, as you hear all of this, what is shifting for you right now? What old assumption about your mind are you beginning to question? Drop it in the comments below, because your reflection might be the exact thing someone else needs to read today. There is a phenomenon in the history of science called multiple discovery, and it is so common that it has its own extensive literature. Multiple discovery is when 2 or more scientists, working independently, with no knowledge of each other's work, arrive at the same breakthrough at essentially the same time. Calculus was developed independently by Newton and Leibniz. The theory of evolution by natural selection was formulated independently by Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace. The telephone was invented nearly simultaneously by Alexander Graham Bell and Elisha Gray, who filed their patent applications on the same day. Oxygen was discovered independently by Carl Wilhelm Scheele, Joseph Priestley, and Antoine Lavoisier within a few years of each other. The standard explanation is that these discoveries were simply ripe, that the necessary prerequisite knowledge had accumulated to the point where the next step was obvious, and anyone working in the field would have arrived at it. And there is truth in that. But the frequency and precision of these convergences goes beyond what ripeness alone can explain. It is as though the idea itself exists in the field, fully formed, and multiple minds tuned to the right frequency receive it simultaneously. The idea is not produced by the individual mind. It is accessed by it. The mind is not the generator. It is the antenna. Rupert Sheldrake, the biologist, formalized a version of this idea with his theory of morphic resonance. Sheldrake proposed that there are fields of information, which he called morphic fields, that contain the collective habits and patterns of any system, from crystals to cells to organisms to societies. These fields are not stored in any physical location. They are not transmitted by any known force. They operate by resonance, meaning that a system tunes into the field that matches its own pattern, the way a radio tunes into a specific frequency. And the more a particular pattern has been repeated, the stronger its morphic field becomes, and the easier it is for new systems to tune into it. Sheldrake's theory is controversial in mainstream biology. It has been called unfalsifiable, though Sheldrake has proposed and in some cases conducted experiments to test it. But whether or not the specific mechanism he describes is correct, the phenomenon he is pointing to is real. Patterns propagate in ways that local, mechanistic explanations cannot fully account for. Skills become easier to learn after many people have learned them. Crystalline structures that were difficult to produce become easier to produce after they have been produced many times elsewhere. Behaviors spread through populations faster than physical transmission can explain. And this brings us to perhaps the most intimate and personally relevant dimension of this entire subject. If the field already contains your thoughts, if your mind is not the generator of your mental life but the receiver and transmitter, then the question of who you are shifts fundamentally. Because you have been identifying with the content of your thoughts. You have been assuming that what you think is who you are. But if your thoughts are patterns in a shared field, if they arise from the field and return to it, if they are influenced by the coherent states of people around you and by the morphic habits of your culture and species, then you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts arise. You are the field itself, localized into a point of perception. This is exactly what the Advaita Vedanta tradition has been saying for thousands of years. The Mandukya Upanishad, one of the shortest and most dense of the Upanishads, describes 4 states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and turiya, the 4th, which is not a state at all, but the awareness that underlies and pervades all 3 states. Turiya is not produced by the brain. It is not a product of neural activity. It is the ground of being itself, the consciousness in which all experience appears. And it is not individual. It is universal. Your turiya and my turiya are not 2 things. They are one awareness, appearing to be many through the mechanism of identification with individual minds and bodies. When the Chandogya Upanishad says Tattvam Asi, thou art that, it is not making a poetic claim. It is making an ontological one. The consciousness that looks out through your eyes is the same consciousness that looks out through every pair of eyes. The field is one. The points of perception are many, and the thoughts that arise in each point of perception are fluctuations in the one field, not private possessions of separate selves. Now this can sound abstract, and I promised you specifics. So let us get concrete about what this means for your daily experience of thinking. Pay attention, over the next few days, to the moment a thought first appears. Not the thought itself, the moment just before it. There is a gap there, a microsecond of silence before the thought crystallizes into words. In that gap, the thought has not yet taken form. It is a kind of pressure, a directionality, an inclination without content. And if you are very attentive, you will notice that this pre-thought pressure often does not feel like it comes from inside you. It feels like it arrives, like something landing on the surface of a pond. The pond is your awareness. The thing that lands is the thought, and you did not throw it. This is not a failure of your mind. It is the nature of mind itself. Thoughts arise from the field, take form in individual awareness, and are shaped by the particular patterns and memories and associations of the individual receiver. The raw signal is universal. The interpretation is personal. You are not thinking. You are being thought through. And the field that thinks through you is the same field that thinks through every other point of awareness in the universe. This is why meditation works the way it does. When you sit in silence and watch your thoughts without engaging them, you are not suppressing mental activity. You are shifting your identification from the content of thought to the awareness in which thought arises. You are moving from the wave to the ocean. And as you do this, something happens that every experienced meditator recognizes. The boundaries of the self begin to soften. The sense of being a separate entity inside a body begins to loosen. And there are moments, sometimes just flashes, when you feel yourself as the field itself. Not a person having an experience, but experience itself, without a center, without a boundary, without a separation between the one who knows and what is known. In those moments, the idea that your thoughts are private, that your mind is sealed, that you are alone inside your own head, becomes obviously, experientially, unmistakably false. You feel the connection, not as a concept, as a reality, as the most real thing you have ever felt. And this is where the quantum field and the contemplative traditions meet on the same ground. The physicist says particles are entangled across space, correlated instantaneously, as though separation is not fundamental. The meditator says awareness is one, appearing as many, and in deep stillness, the oneness is directly perceived. The physicist says observation changes the observed. The meditator says attention shapes reality. The physicist says the wave function contains all possibilities until measurement selects one. The meditator says the present moment contains all potential until consciousness focuses it into experience. These are not analogies stretched beyond their usefulness. These are two languages describing the same underlying structure from different angles. The physicist approaches from the outside, measuring correlations and probabilities. The meditator approaches from the inside, observing the nature of awareness directly, and they converge on the same conclusion. Reality is not made of separate things. It is made of relationship. And consciousness is not a byproduct of that relationship. It is the medium in which relationship occurs. So what does this mean for you, practically, in the life you are living right now? It means that the thoughts you think are not just thoughts. They are contribution to a shared field. Every fear you rehearse, every judgment you repeat, every story of limitation you tell yourself is not just affecting you. It is broadcasting into the field that connects you to every other mind. And every other mind's broadcasts are affecting you, whether you know it or not. This is not a reason for guilt or anxiety. It is a reason for responsibility. Not the heavy, burdensome kind of responsibility that says you must control every thought. That is impossible, and the attempt itself generates more noise in the field. But the gentle, clarifying kind of responsibility that says your inner state matters, that what you cultivate internally has effects that extend beyond you, that when you bring yourself into coherence, into clarity, into stillness, you are not just helping yourself. You are contributing coherence to the field. You are making it slightly easier for every other point of awareness to find its own clarity. The HeartMath research on heart coherence demonstrates this measurably. A single person in a coherent state influences the physiological rhythms of people nearby. Imagine what happens when many people enter coherence simultaneously. The Global Consciousness Project. Data suggests that it affects the physical world at a measurable level. The field responds to collective coherence. Reality itself becomes more ordered when consciousness becomes more ordered. This is the mechanism underneath every prayer circle, every group meditation, every moment of collective silence. It is not superstition. It is field physics applied to consciousness. When many minds cohere around a single intention, the effect is not additive. It is multiplicative, like a laser. Individual photons becoming coherent and producing an effect that incoherent light never could. There is a second practice I want to offer you now. This one is for the moments when you notice a thought arising that feels foreign. A sudden anxiety that does not match your circumstances. An inexplicable sadness. A burst of anger that seems disproportionate to what triggered it. In those moments, before you react, before you build a story about why you feel this way, ask yourself one question. Is this mine? Not as a way of avoiding your feelings, not as a way of deflecting responsibility, but as a genuine inquiry into the origin of the mental content. Because if thoughts arise from a shared field, then not every thought that appears in your awareness belongs to your personal pattern. Some of them are resonance. Some of them are field noise. Some of them are the emotional broadcasts of people you are entangled with, people you love, people you live near, people you have never met, but whose frequency overlaps with yours. When you ask, "Is this mine?" you create a tiny gap between the thought and your identification with it. And in that gap, something remarkable often happens. The thought either intensifies, which usually means it is genuinely yours and needs your attention, or it dissolves, which usually means it was field resonance and your awareness of it as not yours is enough to release it. This is not a trick. It is a fundamental skill for living in a connected field. It is the difference between being a conscious participant in the field and being an unconscious antenna that picks up every signal without discrimination. The ancient Stoic philosophers, particularly Epictetus, taught a version of this when they distinguished between what is up to us and what is not up to us. They placed thoughts and impressions in a category that requires examination before assent. An impression arises. Before you agree with it, before you act on it, you examine it. Is this accurate? Is this useful? Is this mine? The Stoics did not have the language of quantum fields, but they had the phenomenology exactly right. Not every mental event that occurs in your awareness deserves your identification. Some of them are passing weather in a shared sky. And this brings us to perhaps the deepest implication of everything we have explored. If the field already knows your thoughts, because your thoughts are the field, then the relationship between your mind and reality is not what you assumed. You assumed you were a separate self, generating private thoughts, trying to figure out an external world that is indifferent to your inner life. But the truth is more like this. You are a focal point of awareness in a conscious field. Your thoughts are fluctuations in that field. The field responds to those fluctuations. And the reality you experience is not independent of the patterns you contribute to the field. This is not the oversimplified version of manifestation that says think positive and good things happen. That model still assumes a separate self projecting wishes at an external world. What we are describing is more fundamental. The field and your awareness are not two things. They are one process. When your awareness is incoherent, fragmented, dominated by fear and reactivity, the field around you reflects that incoherence, not as punishment, as resonance. When your awareness is coherent, clear, settled into its own depth, the field around you reflects that coherence. Again, not as reward, as resonance. You are not manifesting from the outside. You are participating from the inside. The delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, first performed by Yoon-Ho Kim and colleagues in 1999, adds another layer to this understanding. In this experiment, which is a variation of the double-slit setup, the choice of whether to observe which path a particle took is made after the particle has already been detected on the screen. And the results show that this delayed choice still affects the pattern. If the which path information is erased, the interference pattern appears, even though the particle has already been recorded. If the which path information is preserved, the particle pattern appears. The decision made after the fact appears to retroactively influence the earlier event. The standard physics explanation involves correlations between entangled photons and does not require backward causation. But the phenomenological implication remains striking. The relationship between observation and outcome is not confined to the present moment. The field, it seems, does not operate on a simple timeline where cause must precede effect. The connections are more fluid, more entangled with time itself than our linear minds naturally comprehend. And this resonates with the experience of anyone who has done deep inner work. You change a belief about yourself. You resolve an old pattern of fear, and suddenly the past looks different. Not because the events changed, but because the meaning changed. And as the meaning changes, the way those events continue to influence your present changes. The pattern in the field has been altered, and the alteration ripples in all directions, forward and backward. This is not magical thinking. This is the lived experience of what happens when a point of consciousness changes its coherent state within a connected field. There is one more piece of science I want to bring in. because it addresses the most common objection to everything we have discussed. The objection goes like this. Quantum effects operate at the subatomic scale. They do not scale up to the level of brains and thoughts and human experience. The brain is too warm, too wet, too noisy for quantum coherence to be maintained. Therefore, quantum physics is irrelevant to consciousness. This objection was considered definitive for decades. And then quantum biology happened. In 2007, a team led by Graham Fleming at the University of California, Berkeley, published evidence that photosynthesis in green sulfur bacteria uses quantum coherence to achieve near-perfect efficiency in energy transfer. The energy from absorbed photons does not travel a single classical path through the molecular complex. It travels all possible paths simultaneously as a quantum superposition and selects the most efficient one. This happens at biological temperatures, in a wet, noisy, living system, the exact conditions that were supposed to make quantum effects impossible. Since then, quantum effects have been identified in bird navigation, where the European robin appears to use quantum entanglement in cryptochrome proteins in its retina to sense the Earth's magnetic field. They have been proposed in the sense of smell, where the vibrational frequencies of molecules, not just their shapes, may determine how they are perceived. And Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff have proposed that quantum computations in microtubules, protein structures inside neurons, may be the physical basis of consciousness itself. The objection that quantum effects cannot operate in biological systems has been empirically falsified. Life does not avoid quantum mechanics. Life exploits it. And if quantum coherence operates in photosynthetic bacteria and bird brains, the claim that it cannot operate in human consciousness is not a conclusion. It is an assumption that has lost its foundation. So here we are. The double-slit experiment shows that observation changes physical outcomes. Entanglement shows that separated systems remain instantaneously connected. The Pierre Lab data shows that human intention measurably influences random physical systems regardless of distance. The Global Consciousness Project shows that collective mental coherence affects physical randomness at a global scale. HeartMath research shows that one person's coherent heart field entrains the brainwaves of another. Quantum biology shows that quantum effects operate in living systems at biological temperatures, and thousands of years of contemplative practice converge on the direct experience that awareness is not bounded by the body, and that the deepest nature of consciousness is universal, not individual. Each of these threads taken alone is interesting. Taken together, they weave a picture that is impossible to ignore. Your mind is not alone. Your thoughts are not private. The field that connects all things is not indifferent to your inner life. It is your inner life, and it is everyone else's inner life. And it already knows what you are thinking, because your thinking is how it thinks. Now, what do you do with this? You do not need to do anything dramatic. You do not need to adopt a new belief system or abandon your existing one. What you need to do is much simpler and much harder. You need to begin paying attention to the quality of your inner life with the understanding that it matters beyond you. Consider sharing this video with someone you know who is ready to hear it. When you share these ideas about the connected nature of consciousness, you are not just passing along information. You are creating a coherent signal in the field between you and that person, reinforcing your own understanding while opening a doorway for theirs. And that shared resonance ripples outward in ways neither of you can predict. That is how fields work. One coherent signal amplifies another. Here's a practice for this. It is not a meditation in the formal sense. It is a way of being with your own mind throughout the day. At 3 points during your day, morning, midday, and evening, pause for 60 seconds, just 60 seconds. And in that pause, notice the overall quality of your mental field, not the content of your thoughts, the quality. Is it agitated or still? Is it scattered or focused? Is it contracted or open? Do not try to change it. Just notice it. And as you notice it, hold the understanding that this quality is not just your private experience. It is your contribution to the shared field. It is what you are broadcasting. It is the signal you are adding to the collective. Over days and weeks, this simple practice does something profound. It shifts your relationship to your own mind from ownership to stewardship. You stop thinking of your thoughts as your private property and start thinking of them as your contribution to a shared ecology. And that shift, subtle as it is, changes everything. Because when you realize that your inner state is a contribution, you naturally begin to care for it differently. Not out of obligation, out of recognition. The way you would care for a garden that feeds not just you, but your neighbors. The quantum field already knows your thoughts are connected. It has always known. It is the connection. The question was never whether the connection exists. The question was when you would notice it. When you would stop treating your mind as a sealed room and start treating it as a window that opens onto everything. You are noticing it now. You are feeling the edges of it. The boundary between your awareness and the larger field is thinner than it was an hour ago. Not because something changed in the field, because something changed in your attention. You turned toward what was always there, and in turning toward it, you made it real in your experience, which is, when you think about it, exactly what the double-slit experiment has been telling us all along. What you observe, you bring into form. What you attend to, you make real. And what you make real, you contribute to the field that connects every mind that has ever thought a thought. Your mind is not alone. It never was. And now that you know this, not as a concept, but as a felt understanding, you cannot unknow it. The field has registered the shift, and the shift, like every coherent signal in a connected system, will ripple outward in ways you cannot predict but do not need to control. If this landed somewhere real in you, stay with it. Do not rush to the next thing. Let the understanding settle into your body, into your nervous system, into the field that extends beyond your skin. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to keep exploring what happens when you take these ideas seriously and live them rather than just think about them, subscribe and come back. Every video on this channel is a different doorway into the same truth, approached from a different angle, with different evidence and different practices. But the truth underneath is always the same. You are not separate. You never were. And the moment you stop pretending you are, everything changes.